Devil in a red dress. Call 911, I'm a killer. You know I hate to confess. Bang, bang, got my hand on the trigger. The devil in
Hello, Traban.
Hello, Tito.
Wow, look at this amazing picture with the US and the Chinese flag almost coming together in what looks like a meeting of a century.
Oh, looks like two old friends finally met.
Yes. Something like this. So this is obviously the. It was called a surprise visit, but actually this visit has been, it could also be called a postponed visit by the U.S. Secretary of State,
Right.
Anthony Blinken, to Beijing to meet with Xi Jinping. What do you think they talked about?
How did it go? Yes. Well, according after the meeting, Blinken had a press meeting, and basically what they talked about was they were just making their positions, and I believe Blinken talked about opening the red line, which been closed for some time.
Right. Well, what is
And
the
the
what is
answer
sorry, but what is the red line? Is that like a Chinese red line that you should not cross?
Yeah.
Or is it the 9-dash line
yeah.
that is sometimes in the red colors on Chinese maps to designate the territory of China in the South China Sea?
No. Yeah, not the red line. Sorry, I meant phone red line. Like
You mean-
emergency red line in case of some military accident happens or anything regarded to some.
Would these lovely ladies operate?
Oh yeah.
The military operators that have to remember some 3,000 phone numbers and people and who sounds like whom, their voice patterns, so that they can recognize them. Must be a tough job. Let's have a look at what it looks like in practice. You see this beautiful office with Xi Jinping sitting over here. Usually there's a camera in front of him, right, to show the Great Wall behind him. This lovely picture. Of course, there is a Chinese flag and this wonderful library. Even such a large table. If I had a table that large, I'd start feeling a little more important too. And over here, wow, actually a couple of red phones. Maybe one for Washington, another one for Moscow. But notice how far away they are at the other end of the table.
Yes.
No, I mean, it must be so hard for him to call someone or even pick up the phone. He has to reach all the way across. He has to crawl on the table. My goodness. No
Maybe he
wonder
doesn't
the
even know that
connection's difficult.
difficult to find a phone on such a big desk.
Who knows, how well it works. So obviously we're making jokes here, but the fact is the so-called red line, kind of a hotline that was named after the hotline that the U.S. And the Soviet Union started using more after their Cuban Missile Crisis to avoid sort of a nuclear escalation.
So nothing to do with the communism.
I wonder why. I thought it was just red because it's important. Actually, that red line wasn't even a phone. It was more of a communication line. But actually, from what you've told me, the Chinese side has been reluctant to start using the red line again until the United States would call off their trade tariffs.
Yeah, that's what they said. So there have been no agreements. There have been no basically no statement about how to improve the relationship, or no specific issues they would reach agreements on.
And what Anton Blinken said was that at the press conference was that they're still working out on how to reestablish this communication. So it seems like the United States wants to resume this because they're worried about some kind of a possible standoff or some confrontation in the Taiwan Strait.
Blinken pressed the Chinese to release some detained American citizens.
Okay, that's
to stop the production and export of fentanyl.
Yeah, let me open that up real quick. Yeah. So what has happened? What has been happening was that some Chinese opiate manufacturing companies, they have been sending packages directly into the U.S. or maybe this is more closely monitored by now. Some companies have sold them to Mexico, where they would sometimes be bought up by the drug cartels and then manufactured into fentanyl, just like what was done with the ephedrine that was shipped from China to Mexico and then manufactured into methamphetamine and then shipped to the U.S. So obviously the U.S. wants China to crack down on these sellers.
This is not the first time that the U.S. asked China to stop selling fentanyl to Mexico, and after every time China reduced the export of fentanyl a little bit, and they resumed again after a while. So you know.
Yeah, I can see how this might work. So when there's a crackdown in China, the the production stops, and after a while, when the crackdown is no longer in place, everything seems to come back to business as usual.
China is like a person with a short-term memory. It needs to be reminded over and over not to do this evil thing that kills every year like between 70,000 to 90,000 Americans. But why to stop business? If it's profitable, who cares about human lives, right?
I mean, it makes money for the sellers, but China's not. This is not China's primary interest to crack down on this. Of course, they do it. They do it sometimes, but and it could also. This is a little bit cynical, but it could also be seen, as kind of a leverage. Well, okay, we will crack down more if the United States, also reduces their import tariffs. So it's this kind of a diplomacy that we are dealing with.
Yeah, right. So there were more problems more grievances that America is holding right now against China, and seems like there is no end to it.
Yeah. If you look over here, we can see that the original visit of Secretary Blinken was scheduled a few months ago, and then was suddenly interrupted, I guess, or postponed. And I guess now you can see why.
Yeah, there's the Balloon Gate. Gate affair that happened in February this year.
And you can see beautifully how the balloon went all across the United States before they shot it down.
Apparently, the Chinese, there was a weather balloon released by a private company in China. Apparently in China there are some private companies that are releasing weather balloons right and left, and then the balloons fly all around the world, uncontrolled, without anybody being warned. And, as China said, these are private companies with balloons, we have no control over them. Like China is the country that controls every private business, every single one.
In this case, it's more than that. It's a private company. It's a state owns something that is probably hiding behind a private company. When it comes to private companies, I mean, the government has leverage on them, So they can always exert some influence.
Somebody said if China wanted to know what the weather was like in America, they could just ask. There was no reason to send a balloon.
That's a joke. Yeah. Obviously, this was not a big problem for the United States, which is probably why they let it go, across the entire length of the U.S. But I don't think the Biden administration could ignore the issue if there were a lot of people, checking the balloon out, so to speak.
Well, Biden administration is not very fast to release what they found on the balloon, and I think they are postponing this investigation announcement purposely, because they don't want to make the relationship worse.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is that China takes every opportunity to say over and over how unfair it was to shoot this peaceful balloon from China, on its uncontrolled trip over this beautiful American countryside, without like.
That's some of what the narrative has been, yeah.
Like one comment I just remember from Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, that one of the Chinese commenters said, "This balloon got lost. Why did the Americans had to shoot it down? And not to help the balloon to find its way back home."
Poor little balloon.
Living being.
This kind of a personification that you hear about in stories. So obviously, this is a story or it's a narrative. Obviously, whenever a foreign object enters into a country's airspace, they will shoot it down. They have every right to shoot it down.
Yeah, and accidentally, the balloon was hovering for some time over Montana, not far when the nuclear silos are located. It was just a coincidence, I guess.
Well, I'm sure they sent the balloon a specific trajectory. So it will be interesting to see, if they, release some findings in the future, to see if we can learn a little more about that. Another thing that go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say what Biden, after Blinken returned from China, there was a fundraiser in California, and Biden, without cameras and anything,
I was just about to open it.
When he talked to she was very embarrassed when a suspected Chinese spy balloon was blown, of course, over U.S. airspace, and the reason why Xi Jinping got very upset in terms of when Biden, apparently himself, shot that balloon down with 2 boxcars full of spy equipment in it, was that he didn't know, Xi Jinping didn't know it was there. Nobody told him. And
this was all a huge mistake, right? So
yeah. So Biden said it was a great embarrassment because it's always a great embarrassment for dictators when they didn't know what happened.
Well, it makes them look kind of dumb. So obviously, when Xi Jinping phrases it like this, you know, you either look a little bit evil or you look a little bit, you know, incompetent. So neither of those look good.
Yes.
Yeah. But obviously, notice in this sentence, yeah,
Yes.
the word dictator comes
Xi
up.
Jinping, a dictator, which he is.
Oh, yes, but
And you know, China didn't let it go.
no, he didn't like that.
Yeah, didn't like it at all.
He's not liking a lot of things as of late.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We can see the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They held a press conference. Notice they have a. It seems like they have a new spokeswoman.
美方有关言论极其荒谬，极不负责，严重违背基本事实，严重违背外交礼仪，严重侵犯中方政治尊严，是公开的政治挑衅。中方对此强烈不满，坚决反对。
But notice that, you know, this nice lady, you know, she's still speaking, you know, firmly but pleasantly. So it's it seems like an indication that China is trying to soften its image to the outside world, not to appear like a wolf warrior, but you know, a little nicer.
Right. So it was a provocation, right?
Yes. Imagine that it was the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, imagine that there would be a balloon hovering over China for several weeks, gathering intelligence. You know, of course the Chinese would help the balloon. They would just gently poke it, you know, and direct it back home. Probably, I don't know.
Right. Or if
Yeah.
imagine that you know that you know someone in China said something negative about Joe Biden. The U.S. would have a press conference where the state secretary spokesperson, you know, would talk about this. It would seem a little. It would seem a little petty. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
But it hasn't been, as of late, it hasn't just been U.S. and Chinese dignitaries that have resumed their meetings. China continues to meet with their European counterparts as well. Yeah. Here we can see the military band playing for Chinese Premier Li Qiang.
Oh, such honors.
Yes, the red carpet, Chinese anthem, and look over here in the background. You have some volunteers from the Chinese diaspora waving flags.
Volunteers, yes. Yeah. So nice. So apparently the Chinese were planning to arrive with number of ministers, but the German government asked them to downsize the number to avoid giving allies the impression that it was too welcoming to China.
I can imagine how sad they must have been, you know, at on the Chinese government level. They wanted, you know, to have a business trip too. Now it's just Li Qiang that gets to go out.
Packing, you know, getting ready for the trip, and they were like, no, I'm going alone, guys. Just me. So just Li Qiang arrived, and yet Chinese demanded to welcome the Chinese Prime Minister with full military honors.
Well, how else? You gotta have at least the flags waving and the military band playing.
Yeah, they have to show something to in China to their people. What they are supposed to show.
See, again, it seems it looks petty, again and again. But the countries that have been meeting with China as of late, they seem very accommodating. Like, just compare this with the late 1990s. Let's have a look here.
Oh,
this is
golden times.
This is Jiang Zemin arriving in Switzerland. Yeah.
Where are the Chinese people welcoming him?
No, such a horrible welcome. Let's see it.
Yeah, they didn't have. Wow. Here they are.
Yes. Even some balloons. So they prepared the parade for him as well, but I don't think he wants.
These Swiss ministers were waiting for him to shake hands with him, but with Jiang Zemin, but Jiang Zemin ignored them. He just walked right in.
Yes, he thought no. And then let's see how the whole meeting went.
Already looking pissed.
主席女士，我还考虑到，今天这个场面，你可能也有所得。你们的国家里面有一些人要喊口号的，可能认为你做得好，
You have lost a good friend.
但是你失去了一个中国的朋友。请原谅我要离开这个稿子讲几句话。
What a chaotic country, Switzerland. They cannot control their people. Where are the tanks? All the tanks are.
The clapping at the end. Oh my God! What can you say? Petty. No, but now that I've seen this, I can understand. Why Jiang Zemin has been such a popular figure in and out of China. Right.
Yeah, he didn't take any lectures in politeness or diplomacy. He was just right on spot.
See, now lately it has been much nicer. Angela Merkel even tried to give an Asian map to Xi Jinping.
Yes, Asian map that is missing like every important island or region that China is claiming.
So they were not very pleased with.
Yeah, it was a very strange gift. But anyway, it was just 2018, and unlike this time, like Chinese Prime Minister Li Qiang in Berlin or Blinken in Beijing, there were no statements after the visit. They even, like when Blinken arrived in Junanhai in Beijing, it was announced only 1 hour before he arrived.
Wow.
And after that, he just gave his he had a press meeting just by himself. Okay, it was not friendly. There were no
it sounds like that.
Yeah, no
I understand.
Promises, but it was such different time when Angela Merkel, who actually was a terrible chancellor.
And then she was not very foresightful with regards to some of the policy that she adopted, especially towards Russia and maybe towards China as well.
Russia and China, she screwed up. She screwed up everything. There were two important things regarding the foreign affairs they were supposed to focus on, and she screwed up both of them. anyway, in 2018, she was still very popular, and she was even respected in China. And even when
you have to keep in mind, China was not such a giant, such a current issue, such a pressing issue before the COVID restrictions entered place, or before there was COVID in the first place, and Russia was not such an such a pressing matter until they invaded Ukraine again.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But like building a Nord Stream 2 pipeline, that was unnecessary. It was completely unnecessary.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
for example. Anyway, when she was in Beijing, she brought up lots of issues. She was talking about the rights and freedom of people in Hong Kong. They must be guaranteed, and no violence must resume. And she was talking about the situation with the human activists and dissidents. She even met a wife of imprisoned Chinese dissidents.
Okay.
And basically she opened lots of problems, and she even held speech at university in Wuhan. And different times, and when they finished, there was like a statement as long as 20 pages. This time nothing, zero.
So it seems like the relations have really gotten worse, when you look at it.
But it says something about China, how China changed. China is closing again.
I think that remains to be seen. I think China would like to stay open, and they would like to have more and more businesses come in and invest, or at least have the businesses that are there stay there, right? Let's have a look over here. Bill Gates was welcomed even by Xi Jinping when he went to China, or rather, we should say he was invited by Xi Jinping, I assume.
Xi Jinping calls Bill Gates his first big American friend. Apparently, Xi Jinping screwed Bill Gates. What is the saying that? No business, but we are still friends.
Right. Yes.
How does the saying go?
I forgot it in Chinese.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up.
My Buchang.
Buchang is not successful.
Rainy Zai.
Yeah, the some humanity or some friendship is still there.
Yes. So this guy, the screw Bill Gates. Bill Gates' revenue from China is like 2% of the total revenue. So 1.4 billion people using Windows daily.
Yeah, he's sometimes still using Windows XP, or a few years ago that was the case.
Yeah, but still Windows. And all he makes from China is like 2%, like $1.2 billion or something.
That's ridiculous.
And yet, apparently he got invited. He got this great honor to go and talk to Xi Jinping, who was going to call him his first big American friend. And Bill Gates just came, looked very pleased. He donated 50 million people to some institution fighting malaria and tuberculosis.
$50 million.
He left. $50 million.
Wow.
Donation.
Well, no wonder that he's described as such a good friend. Not asking for anything, just comes with money. Why not welcome him?
China loves friends who ask for nothing and give a lot. They are their best friends in the world.
I can imagine.
Like Elon Musk or Bill Gates.
Yeah, but they
Mark Zuckerberg. Best friends.
Sometimes they do want something from China, but China doesn't always give this back. That's the issue.
Gives nothing and takes everything. Yeah, that's China.
Well, the other side that I wanted to mention was, that China is, trying to invest in other countries, right? Through the Belt and Road Initiative and through many other projects, maybe going all the way to the Arctic, to Greenland, or if you look at it, even in the Caribbean, right? We can look at we can see that, for example, Cuba has received a lot of money. Maybe not as much as the other examples that are mentioned here, but it doesn't mention some specific examples. What has been in the press was that a lot of the newly built apartments or the new apartments in Cuba, some of them are constructed by Chinese companies. So given that that is the case, someone in the Chinese government might have thought, well, this is a good opportunity for us to maybe set up some secret installations in such a friendly socialist country, and then we get headlines like these.
It reminds me the old joke, like China is through this Belt and Road Initiative building this infrastructure in Africa, and they also built as a bonus, they built in some African countries like a government buildings. And there's a joke like these government buildings are made of micro concrete. 50% microphone, 50% concrete.
But this looks like a lot of people when they see this, they might immediately think of the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the Soviet Union tried to install nuclear capable missiles in Cuba, which could reach continental US in a few minutes. So this is kind of worrying, and at that time the U.S. response was very harsh, and has the way the U.S. responded has managed to convince the Soviet Union and namely Nikita Khrushchev to back down. That the U.S. has convinced him that if you're not going to remove the missiles, we will attack.
Right. And he backed off.
Yeah.
Khrushchev backed off.
So I mean, luckily there hasn't been a confrontation like this between China and the United States. But,
this is not a new information. They know about this spying base since 2019. Just for some reason, they brought it up just last week.
The issue is, it has been released recently. Who knows why? Maybe there has been more information that China would like to construct a military base. Maybe it's related to that. We don't know. But,
right. Again, Biden administration was not very happy that this card been played just before the visit of Blinken in Beijing, and they try to downplay it, but
no, I mean the U.S. administration does seem to be a little bit cautious about trying to find some balance in how to deal with China. Not ignoring, somewhere between not ignoring them and not accommodating them either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Maybe this balance is hard to find. But yeah, speaking of the Soviet Union, China has, quite clearly not, not taken Russia's position in the ongoing aggression against Ukraine. But otherwise there has been some cooperation between Russia and China. Obviously, we talked about the economical cooperation, or rather, China has been very happy to fill in the gap that has been left by some Western companies or some foreign companies leaving Russia. And there is, I think there might also be, when we're talking about about spying and disinformation, maybe they would be happy to cooperate somehow on this level as well. It reminds
me. China.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
It reminds me.
Please.
Of the good old socialist days of the 1950s, right? When we would have such hit songs like Moskva Pekin composed, talking about the friendship. But I think this is long gone, and not coming back so soon.
No. They're the common enemy. That's why they cooperate so well.
Yeah.
In 2015, they signed agreement that their Russian and Chinese media wouldn't negatively comment about each other, and so far they are keeping the promise. Like for example, since the war started, in the Chinese social media platforms were very supportive of Russia, or even adoring Putin, like saying things like "Glorious Russia, glorious Putin, is a great politician. We support the disintegration of NATO. I support Russia because when Russia falls, China is next. So we have to support Russia. They are calling war on Ukraine justified.
Well, it depends whom.
How beautiful job Russia's been doing. Their demand, support Russia is because in defense of world peace by war. Such nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of Chinese people they know that this is wrong. Just like a lot of Russian people know what is happening in Ukraine is wrong. But you also see this other side of the coin, which is completely the opposite. I think there are some other things. I think China would be happy to learn from Russia regarding this sort of propaganda in the media. I remember, sometimes when you watch Chinese state TV, domestic Chinese state TV, at least last time I watched it years ago, it has a nice effect of putting you to sleep. So maybe they would be happy, to learn a little bit from Russia Today or these kinds of media channels.
No, they are helping Russia Today to spread its propaganda because, for example, Russia Today was banned from channels such YouTube, so they just removed the logo, and the Chinese media are putting their news on their media,
really,
just without the RT logo. Yeah, that's what they do.
Okay.
And they're even using the RT people, like pretending they are some kind of bystanders. I don't know, in Western countries, and when they are demanding, stopping the war, stopping supporting Ukraine, and just lots of lies and deflection.
Well, I think it's also when I mentioned spycraft before, because what has come out some time ago in the Chinese TV media. This is the Global Times.
Okay.
They publish a little infographic, a little poster, if you will, on how to catch a spy, or what,
So this is translated into English, right?
Yes. But this is for domestic Chinese people, audiences, right? Yes.
Right.
What to watch out for,
That's very interesting. So what's the first one? Like, a spy might be an intimate lover. Wow.
Well, it makes me think of the an incident that has happened in the U.S., right, with the Chinese honey trap, Fang, who would have some affairs with some U.S. politicians.
Oh yes, she had affairs, like intimate, romantic, or sexual relationships with lots of American politicians, including like two mayors and some, what were they, senators?
I don't remember, but that sounds very productive. Wow. So she's back to Beijing, yeah. Have they given her some recognition of her work?
She was never charged, but she was working for the Chinese government.
It's become obvious right now. But it's not just a case like this of Fang or Christine Fang. For example, in 2009, the British intelligence, MI5, would release a 14-page sort of a warning document that would be distributed to some organizations and some businesses of what to watch out for when it comes to Chinese espionage. And there was this sort of a honey trapping method mentioned there as well.
But this is China warning about foreign spies, so which means the foreign women probably are
or foreign men,
Chinese
what's the word?
Chinese politicians, right? Honey dicking, they are honey dicking. Foreign men are honey dicking, and women are
honey trapping or honey potting.
Honey potting, yeah. The Chinese politicians. Wow, interesting.
But what else do we have?
Any example? Probably not. But it could happen because they are doing it. So
it seems like this is like you have to remember that counterintelligence is just the other side of intelligence. So it seemed like they call up the intelligence agency and ask them, well, what should we write here? What do you guys? I'll put in something like this. I don't think it makes sense.
It is just like they get the job to some domestic affair, like internal affair ministry, and they just ask the foreign affair ministry how they do it, and they just copied it. And just,
I like how
if we do it.
Straightforward it is. First, what you have to do is you enter the country. This is the best way how to do it. Because this way you can steal on the spot, right? Or if you are a little further, if you can't enter the country, you can always use the internet and technologies. And if you are, you can also build an observation site, whatever this means.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is some observation point from Taiwan or.
Apparently, you're using binoculars while you are spying, because that's what spies do.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Everybody knows spies is carrying a binocular in his pocket.
You know why I'm laughing?
Needs to.
Why I'm laughing so much about this? I mean, I'm sure this is a serious international issue, but when you are in China, sometimes some of these a little less competent, maybe some ex-policeman or just some security guard, some bawan. Sometimes they might be thinking, wow, maybe you are a spy if you are a foreigner. And you have, I don't know, a drone, or you want to go up to the roof. Not because you want to bring girls there, but because you are a spy. So
what happened to you, right?
It was something like that. Anyways, me and my friends, we were up on the roof, and the security guard would come up, and try to take pictures, call the police on us. The police were obviously a little bit surprised and, kind of annoyed, why is he bothering them? He was telling, take their passports. And the policeman was asking, why?
They have passports. Yeah. Because they have passports.
Yes, and then he said,
you learn something after.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that, he chilled out a little bit after this. So,
yeah.
Obviously, you're not going to catch regular people. You're not going to catch spies like this. Yeah, obviously, they can be careful, but they should be careful about a lot of other things.
Well, this is typical. Like a thief is calling other people thieves. That's according to the
not just that, but it's it's the thief, sort of teaching you, oh, this is how you shouldn't steal.
Yeah. Right. So thief is like
how do you know all these things? Yeah.
Yeah, right. So the infographics. Right. So China in the last 25 years, since the beginning, been stealing IP theft. China's
they've been stealing a lot of patents, intellectual property. I mean, if they can,
all the IP theft, all the intellectual property is stolen. China steals like 90%. China
really
is the biggest thief in the world. It's estimated that the Chinese intellectual property theft is every year, just in America, something around $600 billion every year. And since like 2010, it's been just intensifying. Every year it's worse and worse and worse. They steal military software, basically everything. Not only military things, but everything they can. They have like a special, I believe in China, they have like 200 like a factories, like a laboratories, where after the theft they just go to and they get some money, they get paid. They don't do it for free.
Okay.
And they the places they create, like this is just like a reverse engineering, right? They create technical drawings and step by step how to design the product.
Or I would imagine if they have some plans, then they can try to build it directly.
Yeah, of course, if it's like a military thing, they just build it for the military. They just copy the I don't know, what was it? J-20, the fighter jet, or basically everything they could, like the Black Hawk helicopters, basically everything. And what they do after that, if it's like a daily use product, they then sell it for some little money to the Chinese companies. And then they start producing it right away.
Yeah,
served on silver platter. They don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, but I mean, because you don't have to spend money and time on research if you can just take it, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And everybody's saying, like if you say China stole something, yeah, that's what Chinese do. They steal, They just steal.
But that's
everybody
a
knows that.
terrible thing to be known for, you know.
Yeah, everybody knows it. It's just there is one guy regarding this hacking. He said that it's like a funny thing. He said that my cybersecurity friends tell me when they hack Chinese sites, the only worthwhile tech they can find there is U.S. intellectual property. Surprise. Yeah.
Okay. Something they've seen before. Wow.
Imagine the Chinese hackers go maybe sometimes to hack some Chinese sites, and there is still U.S. intellectual property everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know, this is a terrible way to move forward because first of all, you know, it makes everybody else angry at you and makes you everybody trust you less. All the other countries trust you less. And second of all, you know, if you don't have you have to invest some money into your own research because then, well, what's going to happen when you can't steal anything anymore?
And that's what I worry about now. That what will happen if they cannot steal anymore? Because since the last, 2 and 3 years especially, the America has been harder, you know, and been really targeting these potential Chinese spies. It could be students, could be anybody going to America to study or just work at some companies.
Some U.S. personnel has been recalled from China, and so we've seen that. So yeah, there is an indication that so I still don't think that China is necessarily closing down, but we might be viewing this through the eyes of the post-China COVID lockdown syndrome, right? When everything was closed, suddenly if it's open, you know, it seems very positive. But you know, time will tell. We will see towards the end of the year how these things develop.
The world kind of lost patience. So like one analogy comes to my mind. Like imagine that your neighbor is not very well off, right? He has some family, he's treating his wife and children badly, but you still go and help him to repair his roof, you know, you feel sorry for him, you give him some food, and then he gets better, he still treats his family badly, and he keeps stealing from your garden, right? So eventually you go like, no, I'm done with you. We are done. You know, I'm not going
everyone's
to
patience
lend you the lawnmower anymore. And he goes like, listen, you are not going to lend me your lawnmower, then, you know, I won't cooperate with you. If by accident, I don't know, for example, tomorrow the mailman accidentally drops some of your posts at my doorsteps, I'm not going to tell you about that, you know, and it could be something important. You know, it could be a letter from the bank or your lawyer or whoever. You know, is this what you want? You know? So this is like a blackmail. You know, like I think it was Kevin Rudd, former Australian Prime Minister, who said like, you know, we've been entangling with China for decades, and now it's difficult to untangle in such a short time.
That's true. Well, I don't think that they want to entangle completely, but, you know, there has been more and more talk about de-risking and decoupling than before.
Especially de-risking. Germany is openly
nobody
talking about
really
de-risking.
wants to decouple from China. This is what is very difficult.
Yeah, that's difficult because you know you cannot replace every product. You know, that China makes by products from other countries. That's kind of maybe possible, but economically not very effective.
You know, there's very little point to that. But, you know, the risking is something that, you know, everybody you know, then it's an idea that everyone can view a little more positively. Well, except China, of course. So it's understandable that China is worried, and we're going to see what kind of an impact this will have on China's foreign policies.
Probably nothing in the next 10 years. I guess that
because the top leadership is not going to change during this time.
Yes, because the leadership of China is not going to change. It can go only worse. And China hurts basically every country. Every single country. So, and I hope not the people, but hopefully that politicians are going to remember. And you know, in the end, when it comes for Germany or France to choose sides, China or America, they will always choose America.
I mean, nobody's choosing China right now as a partner unless they really need something. Unless they really have no choice. I mean,
what can
like this,
China offer? China has no technology. Even the giants like Huawei exist because they stole everything from the West. All the technology that Huawei has been using, they stole. Huawei would be nothing without the stolen Western technology. They developed something, they improved, but they stole at the beginning. They stole, and they are still trying to steal. And we didn't mention microchips. How China really needs microchips and depends on microchips. So what is China playing? Who depends on who actually? Right?
It's a good point. Yeah. So it will be interesting whether how this will play out in the long term. Like I said, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the U.S. government has managed to effectively convince the then Khrushchev administration that if they don't back down, they're going to get down. But I don't think we're going to see something like this. I'm hoping we're not going to see some kind of a confrontation with China, but it's very possible that the way things are now, everyone describes the the relations between the U.S. and China as the worst since the 1970s, but doesn't mean they can't get worse. And nobody wants that. Very yet to see.
Nobody wants that. Before that, just one thing I want to say. Before the Chinese Premier Li Qiang arrived in Germany, German government released a 76-page national security strategy. What's written in this national security strategy is literally written that China is aggressively claiming regional supremacy in Asia and putting international security at risk. Probably talking about South China Sea and Taiwan especially, but not only South China Sea, also the East China Sea, the problems with Japan and South Korea, and not mentioning the problems with India. Basically, on every front, China is a troublemaker.
Yeah, there is some of that.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's stay hopeful and see how this unfolds. See what the next half of this year will bring.
Okay, I support the world.
All right. Oh, so do I. So I'll see you again next time.
See you next time, Tito.
Take care, Trabant. See you later.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.